It's her third identity.
I don't think it changes anything because. Okay, number 3. What is the hallucination theory, and why is it a false explanation to Jesus' death and resurrection? What is the hallucination theory? Yeah.
Everyone who witnessed Jesus after he rose was just hallucinating and having the same hallucination.
Yes. So everyone, what's the Inception? Only with hallucinations. I have not seen Inception.
That movie really weird.
It is
Trippy.
It blows your mind. It's a little bit much for me. My head hurts after watching it. So yeah, everybody's having the same hallucination. And that would mean that 500 people had the same hallucination at the same time, and a bunch of other people had the exact same hallucination not at the same time. Why is that a false explanation for the resurrection of Jesus? Irene.
It's not possible to have people to that same thing.
Hallucinations are an individual thing, right? They're not a group thing. Now you can have a bunch of people hallucinating at the same time. They had parties like that in the 60s with LSD involved, okay? And everybody's hallucinating. But everybody oh, look, it's green and it's red and it's so beautiful. Oh, look, a unicorn. That you're not having the same hallucination. That's a great thing for a put on YouTube, isn't it? Fortunately, I was 5 in the 60s, so that never happened to anybody. So yeah, there's, I call this the Inception theory, by the way. They believed that they'd seen Jesus, but they all had a common hallucination, which is not possible because hallucinations are an individual experience, and Jesus appeared to so many people, including 500 at one time. What is the wrong tomb theory, and why is it a false explanation for the death and resurrection of Jesus? Oh, by the way, the hallucination theory, you still have a total empty tomb. Where's the body? Okay, you're all hallucinating, but the tomb is empty. So what's happened? It doesn't answer that question. Right? Okay, so what about the wrong tomb theory? What's the wrong tomb theory? Yes. Yes, but it wasn't just the disciples, right? Everybody went to the wrong tomb. The women, the disciples, the Roman guards were at the Roman tomb. All kinds of people went to the wrong tomb, and then they also never found the right tomb. Never found where Jesus was buried. So if they had, wow, this person is good. If the authorities if they'd gone to the wrong tomb, the authorities knew where the tomb was. Joseph knew where the tomb was, and so they would have found that tomb, right? If they had gone to the wrong tomb, but they never did. They never said, no, look, he's over here. Just come check it out. They knew where the tomb was. The women watched Joseph bury, Joseph and Nicodemus bury Jesus. They knew where the tomb was. And then it doesn't explain the appearances. If they went to the wrong tomb and he's still in the grave, then who were they seeing when they thought they were seeing Jesus? What is the swoon theory, and why is it a false explanation? What's the swoon theory? What means to swoon? It's a pretty way of saying things. What do they say? He didn't actually die on the cross. He just was badly wounded, and somehow in the cool tomb, with no medical care, he revived. I call this the Princess Bride theory. He was just mostly dead, not all. But here's the thing. Both his enemies and his friends believed he was dead. And he was killed by Roman executioners who were very good at their job. And they always checked to make sure the person was dead before taking them down from the cross, which they did with Jesus too, right? Well, we think he's dead. Let's make sure. Let's put a spear between his heart and his lungs. Even if he was still alive, he would not have survived that piercing through his lungs and his heart. If you, we read about this, I think, in 10th grade, but if you've never read about the medical examinations in terms of Jesus' death, it's fascinating to hear. And every doctor that's looked into it has said, no, absolutely. Um, so if he wasn't all dead, and that's what Pilate believed, and that's what the authorities believed, they would have produced by then probably the body or a live guy, but they didn't produce either one. And also, he had 70 pounds of spices wrapped in. He was mummified. Like, how did he make up, get that all off, walk out of the tomb? And by the way, he would have to roll that stone away from inside. So there was no, you'd be rolling it away like this, tons and tons, right? This is not going to do it. And you're rolling it uphill because they rolled it down into the spot on the, like a roller coaster, kind of on a track. How did that happen? There's so many things wrong with this. What is the stolen body theory, and why is this a false explanation? What's the stolen body? That's an easy one. Yeah, somebody did. The disciples are the most likely suspects for that. So why is that a false theory? Yeah.
They left the dressing cloths. Why would you steal a body but leave the dressing cloths? And also have the secret guards who are sharing something.
Yeah, they somehow got past them or beat them up or, I don't know, brought their slingshots, who knows.
Taking Goliath style.
Taking them out, yeah. All of that is true. And then the other thing is that, what people say is, well, the guards fell asleep. Well, actually, that couldn't happen because the Roman guard, and we'll talk about this next year, the Roman guard had two shifts. One shift slept nearby while the other shift was on duty. So there was always, so like all of them, two shifts would have had to all been asleep in order for them to steal that body. By the way, I call this the Weekend at Bernie's theory. Most young people don't know the movie Weekend at Bernie's, but it's about two young men who get invited to their very wealthy boss's beach home for the weekend. They get there and he's dead. And they don't want to miss out on their weekend, so they just take Bernie, they dress Bernie up, and they take Bernie to it everywhere they go. And so how do these disciples get a dead body unwrapped through Jerusalem, a huge city, without being seen by anyone? And then the final reason that this is a false theory is, where were they? They were hiding. They were afraid. They did not have the courage to go steal Jesus. And they weren't expecting him to rise from the dead. They're complete shock when the women come and say, well, shock and also like derision. Like, yeah, right. When they tell the disciples that Jesus is risen from the dead. What is the substitute crucifixion victim theory, and why is it a false explanation? So what is it? Yes.
Someone was
Yeah, somebody other than Jesus died. So Jesus wasn't on the cross. A twin brother was, or a cousin was, or somebody who looked remarkably like Jesus was. And so those appearances of Jesus were just, he never died. This is what most Muslims believe, by the way. Now, what are the problems with that? Yes.
Now it's in not realize that you're a bad
Yeah. Where's the twin? There's no evidence of a twin. And everyone who knew him would have had to get it wrong that it was not Jesus. They all thought it was Jesus. Do we still have the problem of the empty tomb? Yeah. Where's that dude? Where's the dude that was killed and buried? That body wasn't found either. Yes. Say that. I'm sorry. I should have. What is the invented story theory and why is it a false explanation? Yeah. Right.
That the disciples just invented this story. The resurrection. That wouldn't make sense.
So if you get caught cheating on a test, you might lie and say, no, I didn't. But if the teacher brought a guillotine in the room and said, now what? Yeah, I did. I did that, right? And they did. They all died for a lie that they knew was a lie. That doesn't make sense. It wasn't faith that led to a false resurrection. It was a real resurrection that led to it. And that's really important. What is the copied pagan myths theory, and why is it a false explanation to Jesus' death and resurrection? Do you remember the guy who's not a believer on Truth Project who said there are a lot of dying and reviving gods, and this is just one of those. So, what is that, and why is it? What's the difference between Jesus and those dying gods? Jesus isn't a historical figure, right? Those gods are mythological. So right there you have a huge difference. This is a real person who really lived. And when I was your age, there was a big deal about the historical Jesus. Did he ever really live? Nobody debates that now. Everybody from Bart Ehrman to D.A. Carson. Bart Ehrman was actually finally what graduate was a Christian, but is not now. And he's one of the most famous atheists or skeptic, is probably agnostic, is probably theologians around. He would tell you Jesus Christ lived. He was a real life human being. So would D.A. Carson, one of the most conservative Christian theologians around. So both are both would say the same thing. Jesus is a historical figure, and so the accounts cannot be mythical because he is a true historical person. And that also can't explain the empty tomb. Where's the body? Where's the tomb? And it can't explain persecution of Christians. It can't explain why the disciples were willing to be persecuted. And so it's not a parallel. of an old story, because the first parallel story that we have is from AD 150. Well, that was mimicking Jesus. Jesus wasn't mimicking that. It came more than 100 years after Christ died. Okay. And then none of those myths have anything to do with the rest of Jesus. So I'm just dying and writing again. Okay, questions on this? Okay, I'm going to give you the rest of your time to work on something. I'm going to write it on the board, but I want you to know that if you don't finish it, it's not homework. I will give you time tomorrow to finish it. Today's Wednesday, so it's just do what you can do now. Please be where to stop this on?
I have no idea.
We're gonna. The thing is up here. Great. There we go. That's all.